Good day, everyone. My name is Monalyn Grace Bansil, and we're going to tackle about the properties of language, the basic components of words. Nasa chapter 9 na po tayo. So, the outline of the report, of course, the properties of language and its properties, the 6 properties of language, and the 3 basic components of words. Language language can be strikingly different but also have commonalities or may pagkakaparehas pa din siya. Even though magkaiba sila, pero there are some points na magkaparehas sila according yun kay Brown. So first properties of language is the communicative. Language is communicative. So language permit us to communicate with one or more people who share our language. So for example, you can write what you are thinking and feeling so that others may read and understand your thoughts and feelings. So yet, as you may know from your own experience, there are occasional flaws in the communicative properties of language, despite the prestations of these communications. However, for one person to be able to use language to communicate to one another is impressive. So alam naman natin, we all know na not everyone are capable of being not capable of communicating with other person. Hindi lang siya sa disability na yung mga tinatawag nating pipit. Pero 'di ba, there are people like introverts na hindi talaga sila makapag-communicate through meron silang sarili ng bad language or way of communicating with other people. So yung power na maka-communicate ka sa ibang tao ay malakas talaga yun siya kasi makakapag-communicate ka doon at makakaintindihan kayo. So a lot of people use writing para lang ma-express. May mga tao nga na pag gumagawa ng essay, mas magaling sila pag nagsusulat. May mga tao din na mas magaling pag nagsasalita. So, language, one property of language is being communicative. Nakaka-engage tayo sa ibang tao through communication sa ating language na parang, ay, same kami nito. Mas lalo na pag same kayo talaga ng language na sinispeak, mas may communication sa inyong dalawa. So next property is arbitrarily symbolic. So language creates an arbitrary relationship between a symbol and what it represents. It's either idea, a thing, a process, a relationship, or a description. So yung example ko dito is, we would need a tree-like symbol to represent a tree. So according dito sa libro ko na nabasa, na we communicate through our shared system of arbitrary symbolic references to things, ideas, process, relationship, and descriptions. According to Threadman, now words are symbols that were chosen arbitrarily to represent something else, such as tree, swim, or brilliant. So the thing or concept in the real world that the word refers is called reference. So by consensual agreement, these combinations of letters or sounds may be meaningful to us, but the particular symbols themselves do not lead to the meaning of the word. So which is why different language use very different sounds to refer to something. The symbols are convenient because we can use them to refer to things, ideas, processes, relationship, and description that are not currently present, such as Amazon River. So we even use symbols to refer things that never have existed, like as dragons or elves. So we can use symbols to refer to things that exist in a form that is not physically tangible, such as calculus, truth, or justice. Without arbitrary symbolic references, we would be limited to symbols that somehow resemble the things that they are symbolizing. So yun nga, yung naghahanap tayo ng isang bagay na magre-represent sa isang bagay din na like ito yung sa kailangan nating maghanap ng tree-like na symbol na parang kahoy siya para masabi na ay kahoy ito. ito yung symbol na ay merong kahoy dyan. So, there are two principles underlying word meaning. There are the principles of conventionality and the principle of contrast, according to Clark. The principles of conventionality simply states that the meaning of words are determined by conventions. They have meaning upon which people agree. According to principle of contrast naman, different words have different meanings. Thus, when you have two different words, they represent two things that are at least slightly different. So otherwise, we would be the point of having two different words at the same thing. So that yun yung ibig sabihin ng arbitrary symbolic na ang language ay arbitraryo siya, arbitraryo. Next is the regularly structured. So ang language daw ay regularly structured. So language has structure. Only particular pattern arrangement of symbols have meaning and different arrangement yields different meanings. So yung ginawang example dito is yung parang sa ancient Egyptian god na 'di ba yung mga Egypt mahilig sila sa carving god sa mga caves o sa mga pyramids nila, yung ganun. Tawag ata dun. So, structure ng language is patterns of sounds and letters for meaningful words. So, random words and letters, however, usually do not further particular patterns of words for meaningful sentences, paragraphs, and discourse. So, most other make no sense. Later in this chapter, we will look more closely at the structure of languages. So, matatakil pa natin mamaya kung ano yung mga structure ng languages. Dito ata sa next natin na property of language. So, ito nga, structured at multiple levels. So, ang language daw ay structured at multiple levels. So, the structure of language can be analyzed at more than one level. For example, in sounds, the meaning ng units, sa words, and phrases. So, sa sounds natin, alam natin yung phonology, yung mga naririnig natin, yung sa mga semantic, yung sa literature natin noon, yun sila, ang language daw ay meron din multiple level of, meron din siyang structure at multiple levels, magkakaibang states. So, pag sa sounds kasi, such as yung P at saka T. So, pag naging words siya, magiging, gagawan mo siya lang words lang na pat, tap. Kaya yung ginawang example dito na sounds such as P and T. Tapos yung words naman is pat, tap, pot, top, pit, and tip. So, pag ginawa siyang sentence, So, pag ginawa siya man such as Pat said to top, the top of the pot, then tip into the top, into the pit. So, pag sa larger unit na siya of language, ito na yung mga paragraph o yung mga book. So, by level siya. From sound to words to sentences to larger units, ganun yung structure niya, yung levels niya, yung multiple levels na meron siya. So, next is generativity and productivity. So, generativity are sometimes, actually productivity dapat ito siya kasi yun yung nasa book. Productivity and sometimes termed kasi siya as generativity. So, within the limits of linguistic structure, language users can produce novel occurrences. The possibilities of creating new occurrences are virtually limitless. So, yung nandito kasi is, yung productivity refers here to a vast ability to produce language creatively. So, however, our use of language that does have limitations. We have to conform to a particular structure and use a shared system of arbitrary symbols. So, we can use language to produce an infinite numbers of unique sentences and other meaningful combinations of words, although the numbers of sounds used in language may be finite, may katapusan. So, the various sounds can be combined endlessly to form new words and new sentences. So, yung sinasabi niya lang dito is, language is productivity. Generative siya na in a way na productive siya na pwede siyang maging finite na yung isang word hindi lang siya mag-sustain na ganun na pwede mo siyang gawan pa ng another na mas meaningful dun sa naunang ginawa. So next, language daw is dynamic. So language constantly evolve. So bakit nga ba tinawag na constantly evolve yung language? So because language changes for several reasons. Ito yung unang rason kung bakit nag-change or nag-evolve yung language natin. It changes because the needs of its speakers change. Kasi kung halimbawa yung pag ginamit pa natin yung mga pananalita ng mga sinaunang tao noon, masyadong malalalim na, and some of us hindi na natin alam kung ano bang ibig sabihin ng mga terms na yon. So nagbabago yung language, nag-evolve siya kasi nga yung unang rason is nakadepende siya sa kailangan ng speaker. For example, yung example dito is you may be familiar with the word netiquette. So a blend of network and etiquette referring to appropriate behavior in online. So yung nag-evolve yung language because of new products, new technologies na kailangan mag-level up din siya kasi merong nangyaring ganito, kailangan may tawag din doon. Yung emoticon, the blend of emotion and icon referring to punctuation symbols used in emails to indicate emotions. And webinar referring to a seminar held online. So, yun, kung napapansin natin, lumabas yung word na webinar nung nagka-lockdown talaga kasi a lot of pagtitipon nangyayari siya sa web. Online lang talaga siya nangyayari. Unlike before na seminar na face-to-face, ganyan. So, nangailangan yung tao or us, nangailangan tayo ng new word na magre-refer dun sa nakasanayan natin na mag-fit sa current situation natin. That is why tinawag na dynamic ang language. Nag-i-evolve siya, nakadepende siya sa pangangailangan ng tao. So, next is the basic components of words. So, language can be broken down into many smaller units. It is much like the analysis of molecules into basic elements of chemists. So, the small unit of speech sound is called the phone, which is simply a single vocal sound. A given phone may or may not be a part of a particular language. So, kahit yung click lang ng tang mo, yung pag-pop mo lang ng na mag-create ng sound, basta magka-sound ka lang na kahit ganyan lang, it is considered as phone. So, these sounds, however, are not used to form distinctive words in North American English. Pero yun lang, hindi siya masyadong ginagamit. I mean, yung pag-click pa lang ng tang mo, hindi siya masyadong ginagamit sa pag-form ng bagong pag-form ng words sa sa North America language ay English. So kailangan din talaga yung mga pero sometimes kasi pag nagsalita ka din naman kasi nai-involve din yung sound mo, through that you communicate, pero kasi components of all siya, so wala, phone lang siya, sound lang yung meron. Next. So the first basic basic components of word is the phoneme. So a phoneme is the smallest unit of speech sound that can be used to distinguish one utterance in a given language from another. In English, phonemes are made up of vowel or consonant sounds like I, AISF. So, if we distinguish among sit, sat, pat, and pit, so the S sound, the F sound, and the I sound, and the F sound are phonemics in English as it is sound as P. Yung isa, yun. These sounds are produced by alternating sequence of opening and closing the vocal tract. Different languages use different numbers and combinations of phonemics. So, the study of a particular phoneme of a language is called the phonemics. So, in English, the difference between the P and the B sound is important distinction. This sound functions as phonemes in English because they constitute the difference between different words. So, for example, English speaker distinguish between they beat the buns from the beans and they pit the puns from the pin. A well structured but meaningless sentence. So, phonetics naman is the study of how to produce or combine speech sound or to represent them with written symbols by Roca. Yun yung sabi ni Roca na yung phonetics daw naman is a study of how to produce or combine speech sound or to represent them with the written symbols. So whereas the phonemes are relevant to a given language, phones studies in a phonetics are differentiable sounds irrespective of language. Linguists may travel to remote villages to observe, record, and analyze different languages. So the study of phonetic inventors of diverse language is one of the way linguistics gain insight into the nature of language. So um paano mag-pause yun? Sige na lang. So, phonetics naman, ito yung tawag sa study of how to produce sound at saka yung mga speech sound, mga combine ng mga speech sound. So, through sila, ito yung tawag sa study na yon. So, whereas yung mga linguist kasi is nagta-travel sila sa mga remote areas para mag-analyze ng different languages because the study of phonics inventions of diverse language is one way of linguists gain insights to the nature of language. In many cases, however, it is hard to explore a given language because many languages are going extinct. It is estimated that about given language, this is estimated about 2 language die each month. So, yung ito na study is, kwan pa ito 2002 pa by Crystal. So, based sa study niya, dalawang language yung namamatay each month. So, from 2002, ilang language na yung namatay sa current hanggang ngayon, diba? Base sa kanyang study. So, language deaths occurs for a variety reasons. May mga rason kung bakit namamatay yung lingwahe. So one of the reason is members leaving tribal areas in favor for more urban areas. Genocide, globalization, and introduction of new language to an area. So, yung feeling ko yung sa akin na parang nakaka-apekto talaga dito is yung globalization at saka yung mga taga-mountain people natin, yung mga ang tawag sa kanila, mga indigenous ba yung tawag sa kanila? Mga indigenous people natin na mas pinipili nilang nagko-conform na sila sa mga tao sa patag. Dito kasi sa amin, nag-mix na din yung tao dito na before walang indigenous, ngayon meron na. So, nagko-conform na sila sa mga tao dito na which leads them na mawala din yung language na meron sila kasi nga hindi siya nasusustain sa community na meron sila. And also, nawawala siya kasi namamatay ang tao. Yung mga matatanda, sila talaga yung magaling magsalita ng lingwahe pero hindi nila na-nurture o na preserve yung language na meron sila na which is dapat ma-preserve nila kasi kultura nila yun at kayamanan nila yun sa tribo nila. But then, yung ito yung isang rason kung bakit nauubos din yung mga languages na extinct or nawawala yung mga lengguwahe. Because of, hindi ko matawag na migration, pero parang mag-change sila ng area na hindi nasakop ng kakultura, ka-tribo nila. Ganon. So, next. The second basic components of word is the morpheme. So, at the next level of hierarchy, after the phoneme is the morpheme. This morpheme is the smallest unit of meaning within a particular language. So, the word recharges contains two morphemes. The word recharge contains two morphemes. So, re and the charge, where re indicates the repeated action. The word cable consists of only one morpheme, although it is made up of two syllables. But the syllables ka and ball do not have any inherent meaning. So there are two forms of morphemes, the root words and the affixes. So yung root words are the portions of words that contain the majority of the meaning. So these roots cannot be broken down into smaller meaningful units. They are the items that have entries in the dictionary. So alam ko na alam nyo kung ano yung mga root words kasi nga matagal na din siyang ginatackle sa atin simula pa siguro elementary. Ginapasabi na sa atin kung ano yung root word. So hindi ko na siya masyado itatackle. Ito yung salita na origin ng isang salita na nagda-diverse lang siya base sa paggamit. So next, example of roots are the words fixed and active. So we add the second form of morphemes, affixes to these root words. So affixes include prefix which precede the root word and the suffix which follow the root word. So look at the word affixes. Yung alam ko naman yung prefix at saka suffix. Yung prefix yun yung sa harap ng root word, yung root word sa gitna, and then yung sunod sa root word is the suffix. So it contains three morphemes, the af, fix, and s. So af is the prefix variant of the prefix ad and meaning toward, to, or near. In contrast, fix is the root word, and finally s is the suffix that indicates the plural of a noun. Similarly, the word proactive contains the prefix pro and the root word active. Yun. Alam niyo na to. So, content morphemes are the words that convey the bulk of the meaning of a language. So, ang content morphemes ay ang nagko-convey convey the bulk of the meaning of a language. Ito yung, from the word content, yung nilalaman or yung meaning ng language mismo. So yung function naman, add detail and nuance to the meaning of the context morphemes or help the content morphemes fit the grammatical context. So kung yung content morphemes ay yung meaning niya, yung function naman, na tumutulong siya na tinutulungan niya yung content morphemes na mag-fit sa grammatical context kung saan dapat gamitin. So for example, the suffix is and the prefix d. Ang suffix is and the prefix is d. The conjunction and the article, for example, most American kindergartners know to add special suffix to indicate the following. So sa verb tense, no, you study often, you studied yesterday, and you are studying now. So yung function, tinutulungan niya yung content na tinutulungan niya yung content na magbigay ng meaning kung saan ba dapat siya yung function tinutulungan niya nga yung yung function morphemes, tinutulungan niya yung content morphemes na mas maintindihan, mas malaman niya kung saan ba dapat siya nakalagay, saan ba dapat siya ginagamit. Like the verb and noun number, the professor assigns homework, the teaching assistant assign homework. Parang, ano ba tawag mo? Basta, ganun. Sinasabi niya yung kung saan ba dapat nakalagay yung function morphemes. Sa noun possession naman, the student textbook is fascinating. Adjective comparison, the wiser of the two professors taught the wisest of the three students. So next is the lexicon. So the lexicon is the entire set of morphemes in a given language or in a given person's linguistic repertoire. The average adult speaker of English has lexicon about 80,000 morphemes, according to Miller and Gildia. So by combining morphemes, most adult English speakers have a vocabulary of hundreds of thousands of words. Children in grade 1 in the United States have approximately 10,000 words in their vocabularies. By grade 3, they have about 20,000, and by grade 5, they have reached about 40,000. And half of their eventual adult level of attainment, according to Anglin. So for example, by attaching just a few morphemes to the root content morpheme study, we have students studying and studies. So vocabulary is built up slowly. Ang root word natin dito is yung student, na yung root content morpheme natin is study. We have, from the root word study, nakabuo tayo ng student, studious, studied, studying, at saka studies. So, dito naman pumapasok yung function morphemes na saan ba dapat ginagamit yung student, saan ba dapat ginagamit yung studious, saan ba dapat ginagamit yung studied, saan ba dapat ginagamit yung studying, at saka saan ba dapat ginagamit yung studies. Na hindi naman kasi sa lahat ng word na nakalabit yung word na study ay okay gamitin yung studies. That is why we have suffix and prefix and suffix na tumutulong sa root word na makabuild ng bagong word na mag-fit sa dapat na sentence or phrase na gagawin. So, vocabulary is built up slowly. So, yung vocabulary mo, pag nalaman mo yung root word, mas nag-build siya. Kasi nga, sabi nila, pag may ginagawa ka or may ginagawa ka na naka-align doon sa dapat na mag-upgrade ka, by learning little by little, yung mabibuild up mo yung dapat na ma-achieve mo dapat. So, yun, through knowing the root word, yung vocabulary mo is magbibuild up siya unti-unti. So, it develops through many diverse exposure to words and clues as to their meanings. Yun yung ginamin ko sa inyo. So, one of the ways in which English has expanded to embrace an increasing vocabulary is by combining existing morphemes in novel ways. Some suggest that part of William Shakespeare's genius lay in his enjoying the creation of new words by combining existing morphemes. He alleged to have coined more than 1,700 words, or 8.5% of his written vocabulary, and the countless expressions, including the word countless itself, but also other words like inauspicious, wonder, and dauntless. So that's it for the basic components and the properties of language. Miss Riza Eileen Bulalok will continue the next part of this report. So you must watch her first video, the part 1, and that will be the continuation of this report. See you in part 2.